Greetings! We are Group 6 and will be discussing the PICO slides. PICO, as the name implies, is a game-based pedagogy for teaching Bahasa Indonesia as a foreign language. As a result, this game will aid us in learning more about Bahasa Indonesia. So first, I'll go over how to play PICO. But it won't be your typical PICO game because we'll be using it to learn more about Bahasa Indonesia. In this guide, I will first go over how we will convert Bahasa English to Bahasa Indonesia in active sentences. The first step is to choose a word and then translate it into Bahasa Indonesia. Once we have chosen a word, we must think of a phrase that is related to that word. Then, remember the SVO pattern, which means that when we make a sentence, we should do it in this pattern, which means subject first, verb second, and object is third. So we should make a sentence using this pattern and in a form of active voice. Then, once you've finished creating a sentence, choose a word that is either the subject, verb, or object of that sentence. And once you've chosen a word, identify what part of speech it is. Next, we must construct another sentence using the SBO plus pattern and again in the form of active voice. Lastly, we must construct a question based on what is in your sentence.
Earlier, Ms. Ilarde explained the active, Bahasa English to Bahasa Indonesia. So as of the moment, I will explain the passive, Bahasa Indonesia to Bahasa English. Just like what Ms. Ilarde said earlier, our first step is to choose a word and then translate it. If earlier in active, we need to translate it into Bahasa Indonesia, now in passive, we need to translate it into Bahasa English.
But before we begin to demonstrate our example using the PICO slide, I'd like to point out that our example is based on our topic, which is the panahunan ng pandiwa or verb tenses. This means that the sentence we provide will indicate whether it is in the past, present, or future tense. Furthermore, the word we chose is a verb, which means that it is one of the 8 or 9 parts of speech. In addition, the tense of a verb is determined by when the action occurred.
Ayo mulai. Let's start on active, Bahasa English to Bahasa Indonesia. It's not a typical hopscotch or PICO. To understand this clearly, we use as sleepers as a checklist. This will serve as a guide as to which step we will take first. Our first step is to choose a word. So we choose the English word book, in Bahasa Indonesia, buko. After we choose a word, we must think a phrase that is related to our chosen word. The phrase we came up with is an open book. In Bahasa Indonesia, buko terbuka. Our third step is to make a sentence in a form of active voice using the SBO pattern. It means subject first, second is verb, and last is object. The sentence we came up with is an author writes a book. In Bahasa Indonesia, seorang penulis menulis buku.
Mr. Mercado already mentioned the previous steps. Let's go to the next step. Writes. Present tense. In Bahasa Indonesia, kata kerja. In active voice, the famous author writes a book about love. We choose the word writes, which is verb, and tense is present tense. In Bahasa Indonesia, pinoles terkinal, minoles buku tentak. So next, who is the author of the book? In Bahasa Indonesia, siya pa pinoles buku yan, terkinal eto. The famous author of the book about love is Isala James in Bahasa Indonesia. Spinolis tercinal, daring pupotentang, senta adela isala James.
I will discuss on how we will convert Bahasa Indonesia to Bahasa English in passive sentences. So, after we know on how to construct a sentence using a Pico slides and active sentences, to divert the topic, let's use the Pico slides on how to construct a sentences in passive sentence. As we can see, to the given pattern in constructing a sentence in passive sentence, the SBO pattern, the action target is the focus and the verbs acts upon the subject. Like for the given example that is given, a book about love is written by a famous author. Notice how the targets of the action are now the focus. We should always remember that in constructing a passive sentence has a longer sentence than in the active voice, simply because they have to include the additional words like preposition by. After that, let's dwell in our constructed sentence by knowing the different types of words that is used in the sentence and making a passive sentence. In the given constructed sentence, the verb of the sentence is write.
We are now in step 4 of Pico slides, where we will construct another passive sentence. In Bahasa Indonesia, we construct the sentence, si buwa buko ditulis, uli si orang pinulis. So, in Bahasa English, it means a book is written by an author. So, minulis is a verb that we have chosen. The written word here is in the past tense. Let's move on to the second step of the Pico slides, which is the phrase. So, buko terbuka. In English, it means an open book. It is our chosen phrase related to the sentence we construct. So, we are now in the first step of constructing an active sentence, in the final step of constructing a passive sentence. Our chosen word is buko, which means in English, book. And with that, we're done with Pico games. It assisted us in mastering the Pico content and learning more about Bahasa Indonesia. So, this is presented by Group 6, Kirsten Ilarde, Melanie Lustre, yours truly, Sari Mancilia, Sandrix Mangalino, and James Ken Marcaida. Thank you, everyone.